Imagine a peaceful cinematic view of Earth from space. Soft, dark, calming, filled with gentle light and quiet motion. Show the planet slowly rotating beneath a blanket of stars, its oceans glowing with faint moonlight, its continents outlined softly like they're drifting in a dream. The atmosphere should appear thin, delicate, and slightly illuminated, giving the entire planet a serene pulse, as if Earth itself is breathing. Capture a sense of stillness, even though the planet is moving at over 1,600 kilometers per hour. The viewer should feel the paradox: incredible speed, but complete calm. Visualize the rotation as something smooth and effortless, clouds drifting, sunlight sliding from one hemisphere to the other, night slowly giving way to morning in a golden line. Add a subtle cinematic glow around the edges of the Earth, emphasizing warmth, comfort, and safety. The stars behind the planet should not be harsh or bright. They should be soft, twinkling like distant memories. The Milky Way can stretch faintly across the background, adding a dreamy, cosmic depth without overpowering the scene. Show the harmony of movement, oceans flowing, winds curving gently around the globe, the entire planet turning like a slow, ancient wheel. This is a world that has been spinning for billions of years, and yet it feels tender, almost alive. The viewer should be able to imagine the story hidden beneath the surface, the collision that formed the moon, the early violent spin of newborn Earth, and the long ages of cooling, shaping, smoothing into the world we know today. Include a sense of time passing, not fast, but soft and rhythmic. Light should melt across the curve of the planet, as if hours are drifting by in a single moment. Let the image feel like a lullaby made of starlight and gravity. The mood must be calming, warm, meditative, perfect for a sleepy science story. Color palette: deep blues, soft blacks, glowing whites, hints of silver and gentle gold. Textures: smooth clouds, subtle atmospheric glow, faintly shimmering ocean surfaces. Lighting: soothing, with no sharp contrasts, everything blending into a dreamlike gradient. Optional details: a subtle close-up of Earth's surface gently moving with the rotation, a quiet moon in the corner of the frame also drifting, tiny auroras shimmering at the poles, fireflies of city lights glowing faintly in the night side. The overall feeling should be: the Earth spins beneath you, slow and calm, and you are drifting with it, safe, weightless, and peaceful. Make the viewer feel as if they are floating just above the world, listening to a soft bedtime story about the ancient rhythm that carries life from day to night, again and again. Ultra-realistic, cinematic, dreamlike, high-detail, deep space art, perfect for sleep storytelling. The story of Earth's spin begins long before there were oceans, or clouds, or even a sky. Long before forests grew or mountains rose, before any creature crawled or swam or breathed, there was only a vast, swirling cloud drifting through the silent darkness of space. It stretched across millions of kilometers, a mixture of dust, ice, gas, and the remnants of ancient stars that had died long before our sun was born. Everything in this cloud was quiet, weightless, waiting for something to happen. Then, slowly, gently, something did. At the center of this cloud, gravity began to pull everything inward.
It was almost like the universe was taking a deep breath. Little grains of dust drifted closer together. Thin wisps of gas curled around them. As the cloud collapsed, it began to turn, just a little at first, like a slow twist. But as more material gathered, the spin grew faster and smoother. It was the earliest heartbeat of our solar system. And from this rotation, everything would be born. As the center of the cloud heated and brightened, it became the early sun, glowing faintly at first, then stronger, then bright enough to light up the spinning disk of dust around it. In this disk, small particles touched and stuck together. They grew into pebble-sized clumps, then into rocks, then into boulders. Over millions of years, these boulders collided, merged, and became the seeds of new worlds. One of those seeds was Earth. Imagine a tiny rock floating around the newborn sun. It drifts, bumps into another, sticks, grows larger, and continues its journey. Again and again, it collides with others, each time gaining more mass. And with every new addition, it keeps the motion it inherited from the swirling cloud. Every fragment that joins it passes on a little piece of its own momentum. Slowly, this growing ball of rock begins to spin. Not because something pushed it later, but because everything that formed it was already spinning. Earth didn't start moving on purpose. It started spinning because the universe itself was turning. As Earth grew, the space around it was still wild. The young sun sent out fierce waves of energy. The surrounding disk of dust was thick and crowded. Countless rocks, some no bigger than your hands, others the size of cities, moved around in wide arcs, all following the rotation of the disk. The early Earth was constantly being struck, shaped, and transformed. Each impact added heat, added material, and, without us realizing, adjusted the planet's spin. But despite the chaos, there was beauty in it. A strange, ancient harmony. Even though nothing had solid ground yet, no soil, no water, Earth already had motion. It already had a direction and a rhythm. As the molten surface simmered and churned, the whole sphere rotated like a glowing ember turning slowly in the dark. You can imagine it almost like watching a lantern drift across the night sky, soft, warm, spinning silently. Time passed. Not days, because days didn't exist yet. Not nights, because sunlight never stopped. Just endless stretches of deep, cosmic time. Earth continued to spin, while growing larger. As the spinning planet collected more material, it became rounder, smoother, and more stable. The world was still incredibly hot, its surface molten and glowing, but its motion was already steady. Far above, the sun shone brighter and brighter, gradually taking on the golden glow we recognize today. And as its light reached Earth's surface, the spinning sphere began creating its first shadows. Not shadows like the ones cast by mountains or trees, those didn't exist yet, but shadows from the planet's own shape, from the curved surface turning slowly away from the sun. Day and night were beginning to form even before Earth had a sky. As Earth rotated, the side facing the sun glowed brightly, while the far side cooled slightly in the darkness. It was the first ancient whisper of the cycle that would one day guide all life, the rhythm of light and dark, of warmth and rest. The planet didn't yet know how calm and gentle this cycle would eventually become, but it was already practicing the motion. There were still no oceans to reflect the sunlight, no clouds to paint the skies, no wind to sweep across its surface, just a molten crimson world spinning steadily in the emptiness, preparing itself for the long journey ahead. But even in this early state, Earth's spin was important. Without this motion, heat from the sun would scorch one side endlessly, while the other froze in eternal darkness. Instead, the rotation helped spread the warmth, keeping the planet from becoming too extreme. It was one of the first steps towards creating a world where life could eventually survive. Even now, billions of years later, that same ancient motion continues. The world beneath your feet still follows that original spin, smooth, steady, and patient. The reason we have mornings that slip into afternoons, evenings that soften into night, and nights that brighten once again into dawn, is because Earth kept the momentum it received at birth. Nothing in the vast, quiet emptiness of space has ever truly stopped it. As Earth cooled over millions of years, its surface hardened little by little. Volcanoes burst through the crust, releasing gases that drifted upward and formed the very first atmosphere. These gases wrapped around the spinning world like a thin, transparent blanket. Slowly, the sky took shape. Slowly, clouds began to form. And slowly, sunlight started scattering through this new atmosphere, painting the first blue hues across the heavens. With every rotation, Earth was becoming more recognizable. Imagine the first moment when the newborn sky turned a faint shade of blue as sunlight passed through it. Imagine the planet turning beneath that sky, completing rotation after rotation, each one smoothing its motion even more. What we experience today as a calm, predictable cycle began with this soft, ancient turning. The spin also started to influence everything else. Winds began circling the planet. The planet's molten core stirred and rotated too. Magnetic fields formed, wrapping the world in invisible protection. Everything moved, everything flowed, everything participated in the motion that had begun billions of years earlier inside a collapsing cloud of stardust. And even now, if you close your eyes and breathe slowly, it's almost possible to imagine that early Earth spinning gently under the same sun we see today. A sun that once watched a molten world rotate silently in a newborn sky. A sun that continues to watch over us now as the same planet spins peacefully beneath the stars. Every single moment of your life, every morning you wake up, every evening you wind down, every night you close your eyes, the planet is moving softly beneath you. It has been spinning long before life existed, long before oceans formed, long before time itself was divided into hours and minutes. Its rotation is more ancient than mountains, older than trees, older than the oldest fossils we have ever found. And yet, it is gentle, not rushed, not loud, just steady, quiet, and patient, like a heartbeat that is never stopped. As the Earth continued to rotate in those early ages, it eventually became cool enough for water vapor in the atmosphere to fall as rain. Raindrops hissed and steamed as they touched the still warm surface. Storms lasted for thousands of years, filling the low areas of the planet with the first oceans. And when the oceans finally settled into their basins, they began to move with the spin as well. Waves curled, currents drifted, and tides began their slow dance. The whole world moved together, united by the same ancient rotation. This is the true beginning of Earth's motion. Not just the spinning rock in space, but the spinning world capable of life. The rotation became the foundation for everything. Weather systems, the length of a day, the shifting of winds, the rise and fall of tides, all built on that original gentle spin inherited at the dawn of the solar system. And now, billions of years later,
In the earliest ages of our world, after Earth had gathered itself from dust and fire, the universe around it remained far from peaceful. The solar system was young, wild, unsettled. Everywhere you looked, space was filled with drifting stones, shattered fragments of other worlds, icy wanderers, and glowing rivers of dust. Earth, still hot and glowing in places, rotated quietly through this cosmic storm. But the silence you imagine now did not exist then. Each new collision created a sound that, if there had been air to carry it, would have echoed like the heartbeat of creation itself. The young planet did not move alone. It was part of a vast, swirling ballet of objects orbiting the newborn sun. Some of the rocks around it were tiny, dust-like grains that floated gently through space. Others were enormous, kilometers wide, heavy enough to reshape anything they touched. And because Earth continued to spin and sweep through its orbit, it met many of these objects head-on. Every impact, whether small or massive, became part of the planet's story. Imagine a meteor no bigger than your hand drifting silently toward Earth. It falls through the thin currents of early space and strikes the surface, disappearing into the molten ground with a soft, glowing splash. This tiny collision changes almost nothing, but it changes something. A microscopic shift in spin, an almost unnoticeable nudge, a whisper that joins millions of other whispers. Then, imagine a rock the size of a mountain. It travels across millions of kilometers, drawn by gravity toward the spinning Earth. When it finally collides, the impact sends waves of molten rock rolling across the surface like fiery tides. Chunks of glowing debris leap into the sky, some falling back in showers of fire, others drifting outward into space like sparks from a cosmic bonfire. Such an impact shakes the entire planet. It tilts the axis slightly. It speeds up or slows down the rotation. It stirs the molten core deeper below. Every collision was a conversation between Earth and the universe around it, a dialogue written in stone and fire. But not all collisions were chaotic. Some were gentle, soft touches from drifting dust and tiny particles. These particles settled onto the surface, adding their weight to the spinning world. Layer by layer, Earth grew, rounding itself slowly, smoothing its shape. The more spherical the planet became, the more evenly its rotation spread across its body. The spin became steadier, more balanced, more graceful. Think of a spinning top. When it is uneven, it wobbles. When it is smooth, it glides. Earth, too, was slowly gliding toward a smoother, calmer spin. Still, the universe had one enormous collision left to deliver, an event so powerful, so deeply influential, that it would define not only the Earth's spin, but the future of every creature that would ever walk upon its surface. Far across the solar system, another young planet was forming. Almost the size of Mars, it moved through space on an orbit that occasionally brought it near the path of the growing Earth. For millions of years, the two worlds drifted past each other without meeting. But gravity is patient, and space is vast but not infinite. Eventually, their paths aligned in such a way that the two worlds were drawn together. The collision between Earth and this wandering world, known today as Theon, was not a gentle touch. It was an unimaginable impact, a cosmic event that reshaped both planets in an instant. If you were to watch it from far above, you would see a bright, expanding cloud of molten rock erupting into space. The surfaces of both worlds melted into vapor. Huge chunks of Earth and Theia were torn away and flung into orbit around the surviving sphere. It was one of the most violent events in the history of our solar system. Yet from that violence came something beautifully gentle. The debris thrown into space did not drift away forever. Instead, gravity gathered it. Pieces of Earth and Theia began to circle one another, cooling, merging,
forming a glowing ring of molten stone. Over thousands of years, that ring thickened, clumped, and eventually became the moon, a serene, pale companion that would forever influence Earth's motion. The moon's presence stabilized Earth. Before the collision, the planet's spin may have been unpredictable, wobbling between different angles. But once the moon formed, its gravitational pull acted like a hand guiding a spinning wheel. The wobble softened. The tilt steadied. The rotation became smoother, slower, calmer. From this moment forward, Earth's days began to take shape. At first, the days were still short, perhaps only 6 hours long. The planet spun quickly, and the young moon orbited much closer, appearing enormous in the sky. The tides it pulled across the molten oceans were powerful, almost violent. Each tide dragged against Earth's spin, slowing it little by little. Over millions of years, those tiny pulls stretched the day from 6 hours to 8 to 12 to the 24 we know now. Imagine time itself lengthening, stretching gently like a breath drawn slowly in the quiet of night. As Earth continued rotating calmly under the moon's influence, the planet's interior also began to play a role. Deep beneath the surface, the molten iron in the core churned and swirled, creating a magnetic field. This invisible shield guarded Earth from the harsh solar winds that swept through the solar system. Without it, the surface would have been scorched, the atmosphere stripped away. But with the magnetic field in place, Earth remained protected. And the existence of that field, generated by the spinning motion of the core, was tied to the planet's rotation. The faster the early core spun, the more powerful the magnetic field became, as if the very heartbeat of the world helped create a shield to keep it safe. Above the core, the mantle shifted, flowing like thick, warm currents. The entire planet was a moving system, with each layer influencing the next. Earth rotating not just as a solid sphere, but as a collection of motions, outer layers turning, inner layers spinning, the atmosphere flowing with its own rhythm. Every part of the world participated in the dance. And all the while, collisions continued, but now the impacts were smaller. Instead of giant planets crashing together, Earth was visited by smaller asteroids, icy comets, and drifting stones. These collisions still shaped the planet's surface, creating craters and valleys, bringing water and minerals, and occasionally adjusting the spin by tiny amounts. But compared to the colossal birth of the moon, these impacts were but quiet footsteps in a softer, calmer era. As Earth cooled and the crust hardened further, volcanoes erupted across the surface, releasing more gases into the sky. The atmosphere grew thicker, forming clouds that drifted across the rotating world. Rain began to fall, collecting in basins that became oceans. And as soon as the oceans settled, they too began to follow Earth's spin. Currents flowed along the equator. Waves moved in rhythm. Winds circled the globe. Everything responded to the steady turning of the world beneath. And slowly, a pattern emerged. The sun rose. The sun set. Day followed night. Night faded into day. The rotation was no longer just a cosmic leftover. It became the tempo of life itself. Imagine the first creatures to swim in the ancient oceans. They didn't know what the sun was. They didn't know what the sky meant. But they could feel the rhythm of the world. They moved with the currents, rested in darkness, fed in the light. The spin of the earth gave their lives a pattern, a gentle order. That same pattern continues today. Every morning you awake, not because of an alarm clock or a schedule, but because the earth has rotated once more, presenting your part of the world to the sun. Every evening you grow tired, partly because of the soft fading of light as the earth turns into shadow again. You live inside the rotation,
You breathe inside its rhythm. You dream inside its gentle cycle. And this rhythm exists because billions of years ago, the Earth was struck, nudged, guided, and shaped by cosmic forces, each one leaving an imprint on the world's spin. Earth did not choose to rotate. It learned to rotate. It was taught by collisions, shaped by currents, sculpted by the weight of time. Just as a stream carves a valley, just as wind shapes a dune, the universe shaped Earth's motion until it became the calm, steady spin that carries us through each day. Tonight, as you relax, as your breathing softens, try to imagine that quiet rotation, ancient, constant, gentle. The same slow turn that once guided molten oceans now guides the wind brushing against your...
There's a quiet rule woven into the fabric of the universe. A rule so simple, so gentle, that it feels less like a law and more like a whisper guiding everything that moves. This rule says, anything already in motion will keep moving unless something stops it. It is not a rule shouted, not one enforced by force or power. It is simply the natural rhythm of existence. And it is this rule that allows Earth to keep spinning so calmly beneath your feet, night after night, year after year. Imagine holding a smooth stone in your hand. If you slide it gently across a glass table, it glides for a moment, then slows, then stops. But that's only because the world around us is full of tiny forces, friction, air resistance, little imperfections we cannot see. They touch everything, slowing it down bit by bit. In space, though, there is no table, no air, no friction, nothing to rub against, nothing to push back, nothing to interfere. Space is like an endless ocean of quietness where movement continues effortlessly. This is why Earth spins, not because something is pushing it, not because something is pulling it, but because nothing is stopping it. Billions of years ago, when Earth first formed from swirling gas and drifting rock, it started spinning, and once it began, there was nothing in the vast, silent emptiness to slow that motion, so the planet kept turning, softly, smoothly, patiently, and it continues now, the same way it did then. If you close your eyes, you can almost imagine the planet floating in darkness, turning with the elegance of a dancer moving slowly across a stage. There is no sound, no vibration, no jolt, just a gentle, continuous rotation, smooth enough that every living thing grows accustomed to it without ever noticing. This rule of motion is something we see everywhere in the universe. Planets orbit stars. Stars orbit the center of galaxies, and galaxies drift through the cosmic sea. None of them need a constant push. Once moving, they continue, just as Earth continues to turn beneath the sky. If you were drifting far above the world, watching from the calm of space, you would see Earth spinning like a shimmering sphere painted in blues and greens, wrapped in soft clouds. The sun would cast a golden glow across half the surface, slowly sliding as the planet turns. Night would melt into day, day into night, all because of this quiet, persistent motion. And yet, even as it turns so quickly, rotating at over 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator, the motion feels like perfect stillness to us, because everything is turning together. The air, the oceans, the continents,
your body, every breath you take, all of it rides gently along with the spinning world. There is something soothing about that, something comforting. The idea that you are being carried effortlessly through space by a motion older than all of human history. A motion that requires no energy from you, no attention, no effort. You move through the universe simply because Earth moves beneath you. Imagine yourself standing outside on a quiet night. The air is still, the sky is clear. Perhaps you can see a few soft stars glowing above. As you stand there, you may feel as if the world beneath your feet is perfectly still. But in truth, you are traveling. Not just through space as Earth orbits the sun, but also around Earth's axis, rotating, spinning, turning without pause. You are riding on a moving world, wrapped in a blanket of calm. If you could suddenly freeze Earth's spin, even for a moment, not that such a thing could ever happen, you would feel the motion stop. But because the planet spins so perfectly, so smoothly, and because there is nothing in space to slow it, you never feel a thing. The movement is total, balanced, and shared. This quiet rule, motion continues unless stopped, is what scientists call inertia. But you don't need the word. You only need the feeling. The understanding that the universe is full of movement that carries on, softly, effortlessly, like a breeze that never ends. Think about a leaf floating down a calm river. It drifts smoothly because the water carries it. The river doesn't need to push hard. The leaf simply follows the current. In space, Earth follows a similar current, the momentum it was born with, and it drifts forward through time, turning with that same softness. Sometimes people imagine that something must be forcing Earth to spin, like a motor or a machine. But the truth is far more peaceful. Earth spins for the same reason a spinning top continues turning once you give it a gentle twist. Eventually, a top slows down because the table and the air push against it. But Earth is not sitting on a table. It is floating freely, suspended in the emptiness of space with nothing to push against it. And so the spinning goes on. Billions of years have passed since the young Earth began its rotation. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen. Mountains have grown and eroded. Oceans have expanded and shifted. Species have appeared and disappeared. And through every moment of that unimaginable history, Earth has never stopped turning. Every dawn that warms the world, every night that drapes it in darkness, is part of this endless rotation. The gentle spin is the reason time feels so natural, why each day flows into the next with such familiar rhythm. If Earth suddenly lost its motion, the world would lose its daily heartbeat. But because the universe loves continuity, because motion continues, we never have to worry. The rhythm is steady. The cycle is constant. The planet keeps turning, just as it always has. This motion shapes everything in nature. The rising of tides, the blowing of winds, the pattern of shadows, the way stars appear to drift across the night sky. Even the shape of Earth itself is influenced by its spin, slightly wider at the equator, gently flattened at the poles, as if shaped by the soft hands of motion. And maybe you've never stopped to think about that before, that you are living on a world not perfectly round, but gently softened by its own rotation. The planet has worn this shape like a comfortable robe, something it slips into naturally because of how it moves. And as you sit here now, the soft turning continues, without effort, without interruption. You are part of this motion in every moment of your life, even when you sleep, especially when you sleep. The rotation cradles all life in a calm cycle. Day gives warmth, night brings rest. The sun rises, not because the sun moves, but because Earth itself slowly turns to face the light. In the early morning, when the air is still cool and the sky begins to brighten, you are witnessing the gentle result of a rule written into the fabric of reality. And when evening comes and the sky fades to darkness, it is the same rule guiding the planet away from the sunlight, turning your part of the world toward the quiet comfort of night. This rule is beautifully simple, and yet it creates the pattern of every moment on Earth. Continual, effortless motion, a cycle as old as the world itself. Imagine now, if you can, drifting high above the Earth, watching it rotate. You float in silence. You watch oceans glitter in the sunlight. Clouds swirl softly over continents. Night sweeps slowly across half the planet like a velvet blanket, and the world turns, slowly, gently, gracefully. This is the rule of motion, not a hard rule, not a frightening one, a rule that brings peace, stability, and rhythm, a rule that allows.
The story of Earth's gentle spin would be incomplete without the soft, steady presence of the moon. It has been with us for almost the entire history of our world, circling quietly overhead like a guardian lantern in the night. Though it feels far away, though it hangs silently in the sky, its pull touches every ocean, every coastline, every drifting grain of sand. And in its own slow way, it shapes the rhythm of Earth's rotation, guiding it gently, almost lovingly through the ages. If you look at the moon on a calm night, especially when you're tired and the world feels slower, it's easy to imagine that it's simply floating up there, still and peaceful. But the truth is that it is moving just as gracefully as Earth is spinning. The two bodies dance together, bound by gravity, bound by a relationship that began billions of years ago. And every day that relationship changes Earth's rotation by the tiniest amount, almost like the moon is holding the planet's hand, slowing its steps just enough to keep the world safe. The oceans feel this pull first. Imagine a vast blanket of water wrapped around Earth, soft and fluid, responding to the moon's gravity like a heartbeat responding to a gentle touch. On the side of Earth closest to the moon, the ocean swells upward, rising toward it in a slow, smooth curve. On the opposite side, another swell forms, created by the motion of Earth itself as it spins beneath the water. These two great bulges travel around the planet, creating tides, the gentle breathing of the sea. If you ever stood on a beach at night, listening to the waves roll in and out, you felt that ancient motion. The tide comes in, brushing the sand with cool fingers of water. Then it slowly retreats, whispering back toward the horizon. That rhythm has been repeating for billions of years, guided by the moon's steady pull. And as those tides rise and fall, as the oceans shift their tremendous weight, they tug on Earth's rotation ever so slightly, like tiny brakes applied over unimaginable lengths of time. It's strange to think that something as simple as water moving along a shoreline can change the length of a day. But over millions of years, that's exactly what happens. Each tide pulls back against the spinning Earth, slowing it by an amount so small it can't be felt, not even by the most sensitive scientific instruments in a single day. But across ages, across epochs, those tiny invisible touches accumulate. They stretch the day little by little.
When Earth was young, a day lasted only 6 hours. Now, it lasts 24. And millions of years from now, it will be even longer, all because of the moon's faithful presence. The moon wasn't always this far from us. Long ago it was much closer, so close that it looked enormous in the sky, glowing brighter than the sunlit clouds. In those early days the tides were fierce, rising and falling with incredible force. The oceans surged and retreated with such intensity that they shaped the land faster than any wind or rain. The world was wilder then, less stable, more chaotic. And as those tides crashed across the young Earth, they pulled strongly on its rotation, slowing it at a faster pace than today. But as the Earth slowed, the moon drifted away. That's the trade between them. Earth loses a little energy from its spin, and the moon uses that energy to move outward, inch by inch, year by year. That process still continues. Every year, the moon moves a few centimeters farther away from us. It's a tiny change, too small for our senses to notice. But in the grand timeline of the universe, those centimeters become kilometers, and those kilometers become a history written in the sky. If the moon were not here at all, Earth's spin would be different. Our days might be shorter, perhaps only 10 or 12 hours long. Without the moon's stabilizing pull, the planet could wobble unpredictably, tilting this way and that over thousands of years. Seasons would change dramatically and violently. The climate would swing between extremes. Entire ecosystems might rise and fall simply because Earth could not hold itself steady. Life, as we know it, might never have found the calm rhythm it needed to grow. But the moon is here. It holds Earth steady the way your hand might steady something fragile. It's a soft anchor, a cosmic companion whose gravity keeps our world upright, balanced, and peaceful enough for life to flourish. Its light has guided nocturnal creatures for millions of years. Its tides have shaped coastlines, carved estuaries, and stirred nutrients through the oceans. It has been the quiet heartbeat of Earth's rotation, slowing, steadying, and shaping the length of our days. Imagine standing beside the ocean during a calm night. The moon hangs over the water, its reflection turning the waves silver. And though you cannot feel it, though your senses give you no clue, the moon is pulling on the entire ocean beneath your feet. It's moving trillions of tons of water with a force so soft that it never disturbs your balance, yet so powerful that it shapes the entire planet. That strange, beautiful contradiction, subtlety and power existing together, is the essence of how the moon affects Earth's spin. As the tide slides up the shore, you may feel the cool mist kiss your skin. As it slides back, you may hear the low hum of water retreating over smooth sand. That rhythm has been heard for longer than any human memory, longer than any story, longer than any species on land. The tides had been speaking the language of the moon for billions of years, and in their rise and fall is the story of Earth's rotation, a slow poem written across time. If you were somehow able to watch Earth from far above, floating quietly in space, you would see the bilges in the ocean trailing behind the moon like two soft pillows of water. These bulges do not stay fixed in place. They move as Earth spins beneath them. It's this slight mismatch, this lag between the moon's position and the location of the tides that creates the slowing effect. Earth tries to spin faster than the water wants to move. The moon pulls back, and so the rotation slows by the smallest amount imaginable. But that amount is enough. Enough to lengthen the bay, enough to steady the tilt, enough to give the planet a rhythm that life can grow around, enough to let the Earth breathe in the way it does, deeply, predictably, peacefully. Every night as you drift toward sleep, the moon is out there shaping the world in silence. You may not think about it, but the oceans are shifting, tides rising somewhere in the world, tides falling somewhere else. And with each movement, the planet changes a little.
The day stretches a fraction of a second. The moon drifts a little farther away, and Earth continues spinning, turning through time with infinite patience. When ancient humans looked up at the moon, they told stories, thinking it was a lamp hanging in the sky or a silver god watching over the world. They didn't know that it was pulling at the oceans, guiding them like a conductor guiding a symphony. They didn't know that it was slowing the earth, lengthening the day, holding the planet steady through the ages. But they sensed something special. They felt its quiet influence, its calming presence. And even now in our scientific age, that sense hasn't faded. The moon is more than a rock in the sky. It is Earth's companion, Earth's stabilizer, Earth's gentle brake, Earth's nightlight, Earth's reminder that even in the vastness of space, relationships matter. Gravity binds, pulls, guides. Everything affects everything. And our rotation is not just a physical motion, it is a story of connection. So as you listen to the quiet of your room, as your breath slows, as your eyes grow heavy, imagine the moon above the world, glowing softly, pulling tenderly at the oceans, holding Earth steady as it spins. Imagine a tide rising somewhere in the darkness, sliding across sand that has never known a footprint. Imagine another tide falling, leaving behind tiny trails of foam. Imagine the whole planet rocking gently, day after day, night after night, guided by a companion that has been there since the beginning. And imagine yourself resting within that motion, safe within that rhythm, part of the same cosmic dance. The earth spins beneath you, the moon circles above you, and everything moves together in a balance so ancient and so perfect that you can trust it completely. You can let go. You can breathe softly. You can drift the way the tides drift. You can rest the way the world rests in the moon's quiet pull. And as the earth continues its slow rotation, peaceful, steady, endless, you can feel yourself drifting with it, carried by a rhythm older than memory, older than life, older than time as we know it.
In the long, unfolding history of Earth's rotation, there came a time when the planet's surface began to change in ways that would forever alter the relationship between its spin, its oceans, and the life that would one day depend on both. After billions of years of quiet turning and gradual cooling, Earth began to grow complex, layered with continents drifting slowly across its surface, oceans expanding and shrinking, and atmospheric winds carving invisible patterns in the air. These new motions, though far smaller than the great cosmic pushes of Earth's early years, started to play their own role in shaping the rotation of the planet. The world was no longer just a spinning ball of rock. It had become a world filled with moving parts, each one adding its own gentle influence. As continents wandered across the surface, some drifting north, some sliding south, others colliding and breaking apart, they subtly redistributed Earth's weight. And though continents are unimaginably huge, their movements are slow, slower than the growth of a fingernail. But given enough time, they influence everything. Imagine a spinning figure skater. When they stretch their arms outward, they slow. When they tuck them inward, they speed up. Earth behaves in a similar way. When land masses cluster near the equator, the planet becomes slightly wider, and its spin slows just a little. When masses drift toward the poles, the planet becomes subtly more compact, and its rotation speeds up. None of these changes are large enough to be felt in a single generation, but over millions of years, they gently nudge the pace of Earth's turning. At the same time, deep below the continents, rivers of molten rock flowed slowly through the mantle, constantly shifting, bubbling, and swirling. These internal currents acted like hidden gears, redistributing energy, heat, and movement from one part of the planet to another. Volcanic eruptions, mountain building events, and the rise and fall of the seafloor all changed how Earth carried its own mass. Each shift, no matter how small, whispered its influence into the great, ongoing story of rotation. You might imagine that such tiny motions are meaningless compared to the vastness of a planet, but Earth listens to everything. Every change contributes to its delicate balance. Above the surface, the atmosphere had begun its own endless dance. Winds circled the globe, driven by sunlight, the shape of the continents, and the tilt of the planet itself. Jet streams carved long arcs across the sky, carrying storms and shifting climates. Though air seems weightless, it is a powerful force. Its mass is enormous, and its movement transfers energy to the Earth every moment. When strong winds sweep across the planet, they don't just shape clouds and weather, they also push ever so slightly against the planet's rotation. During massive storms or persistent global wind patterns, tiny amounts of angular momentum shift from the atmosphere to the solid Earth or vice versa. This delicate exchange is continuous, like a quiet conversation between ground and sky. Then there were the oceans, vast and restless, in constant motion. Waves and currents circled the planet in great loops, pushed by the winds, guided by the continents, and shaped by the moon's tidal pull. These waters are not simply passengers on Earth's surface, they are powerful movers of energy and momentum. When tides rise and fall, they don't just reshape coastlines for a moment, they also transfer tiny amounts of rotational energy back into the Earth-Moon system. Over long periods of time, this exchange changes both Earth's rotation and the Moon's orbit. The oceans act as the planet's lungs, breathing in and out, their rhythms connecting the spinning Earth to the gravity of the sky. But perhaps the most surprising influence on Earth's spin comes from something even more subtle, something almost invisible: the distribution of water itself. When ice accumulates at the poles during ice ages, Earth's mass shifts toward the rotational axis, causing a slight increase in spin speed. When that ice melts and the oceans swell, water spreads outward, slowing the planet by an almost imperceptible amount. These changes unfold over tens of thousands of years, but their effects accumulate. Our days grow longer by milliseconds. Our nights stretch just a bit more. Humanity does not notice, but the planet feels it. All these natural motions, winds, currents, shifting continents, melting ice, blend together into a slow, evolving choreography that shapes the rotation of our world. Earth's spin is no longer something determined solely by ancient collisions or cosmic forces. It has become a living pattern, influenced by the planet's own internal rhythms. And because these movements never stop, Earth's rotation is never truly constant. It wobbles, shifts, and adjusts like a dancer who is always listening to the music of gravity, heat, and motion. Yet even with all these changes, Earth remains remarkably steady. Its rotation provides the cycle that every living being depends on: the rising and setting of the sun, the gentle swing between day and night, the rhythmic pulse of time itself. The planet maintains this balance with extraordinary grace, absorbing the pushes and pulls of its oceans, atmosphere, and mantle while keeping its overall rhythm intact. There were times, long before humans existed, when the rotation shifted more noticeably. After massive volcanic eruptions, thick layers of ash darkened the skies and changed atmospheric winds for years. These changes, though temporary, altered how momentum moved between the air and the ground. When enormous ice sheets melted at the end of ice ages, sea levels rose by more than 100 meters. As trillions of tons of water redistributed across the globe, Earth's spin responded, slowing just enough to lengthen the day by a fraction of a heartbeat. When continents collided to form towering mountain ranges, the planet's balance changed once again. Every geological event placed its fingerprint on the rotation, leaving behind a record written in the length of each passing day. Scientists have uncovered these patterns by studying ancient corals, tree rings, and sediment layers. some corals millions of years old, show evidence that Earth once had much shorter days, perhaps 22 hours long. Even older data suggest that hundreds of millions of years ago, the planet may have spun even faster, completing a day in as little as 19 hours. All the natural forces mentioned, tides, climate, and internal motion, contributed to the slow lengthening of the day. Earth is relaxing, expanding its breadth, settling into a gentler rhythm. This ongoing transformation reveals something subtle but profound. Earth is not a static object. It is a dynamic, responsive, ever-changing world. And its rotation is not just a leftover motion from the past, it is a living expression of everything happening on and within the planet. Every wind that blows, every wave that rises, every glacier that forms or melts becomes part of the story. Even life itself has played a role. Forests influence winds. Algae in the ocean can modify currents. Ecosystems shape the climate in ways that eventually affect rotation. Though these contributions are small, they matter in the long run. The emergence of life added new layers of complexity to the planet's system, creating feedback loops that continue to modify the balance of heat, mass, and momentum. Life and rotation became intertwined, each responding to the other in ways both subtle and profound. As Earth continued to spin through the ages, all these influences blended together into the rotation we experience today. We take it for granted, the rising sun, the moving shadows, the quiet stretch of day and night. But this rhythm is the result of countless forces acting over billions of years. When you step outside and feel a breeze, when you watch waves roll onto the shore, when you see clouds drifting overhead, you are witnessing the very forces that have shaped Earth's rotation since the beginning. They are not just part of the environment, they are part of the planet's heartbeat. And even though these changes happen slowly, they are still happening now. The melting of ice caps, the shifting of climate patterns, and the movement of tectonic plates continue to adjust the planet's spin in tiny increments. Our modern world, with all its complexity, remains woven into the ancient dance of rotation. Earth listens, responds, and turns, just as it always has. And in your quietest moments, if you imagine the planet spinning beneath you, you might sense the deep continuity of time. The same rotation that shaped the first tides, the first winds, the first living cells continues today, carrying you gently through the hours. You are part of that motion, part of the balance, part of the story that stretches from the birth of the world to the present moment. And as Earth continues its journey around the sun, its rotation will keep evolving, slowly, patiently, peacefully. The forces that shape it will never cease, and the planet will continue turning with the same quiet determination it has carried since the dawn of time. For as long as the Earth exists, this motion, the soft spinning beneath your feet, will remain one of its most enduring, most beautiful qualities.
The Earth's rotation does more than create day and night. It moves the very air we breathe, stirring it gently across the surface of the world. Even now, as you lie still and calm, high above you, the atmosphere is drifting in soft, endless currents. The spin of the planet guides these movements, shaping the winds, bending the clouds, and giving rise to the weather patterns that make our world feel alive. If you close your eyes, you might imagine that you can feel the faintest echo of this great motion, a quiet rhythmic turning beneath every gust of wind, beneath every drifting cloud, beneath the soft whisper of the breeze that sometimes brushes against your window. All of it begins with Earth's gentle rotation. Long ago, after the planet cooled and the first oceans formed, the atmosphere settled above the world like a protective blanket. Sunlight warmed one side of the Earth while the other fell into night, creating temperature differences that made air rise and fall, move and flow. But these motions did not simply drift in straight lines. Because the Earth spins, every movement of air is subtly bent, gently curved by the invisible twist of the planet beneath it. Scientists call this the Coriolis effect. But in the soft quiet of a sleepy night, it feels more like the earth is guiding the air with a careful, calming hand. Imagine standing somewhere near the equator, where the earth's spin is the fastest. The world moves beneath your feet at over 1,600 kilometers per hour, though you cannot feel it. Because of that speed, the air there moves upward gently, warmed by sunlight, rising into the sky. As it rises, it cools, spreads out, and drifts toward the north and south like a silent breath. Then, as it sinks again, the spin of the earth catches the air and slowly turns it, shaping it into great circular patterns, giant loops of motion that span thousands of kilometers. These loops are like the planet's heartbeat. They guide the direction of winds across oceans and continents. They determine where deserts form and where rainforests flourish. They create the gentle trade winds that have blown steadily across the tropics for millions of years, shaping the paths of birds, insects, ancient sailors, and drifting clouds. Every breeze that touches your skin has been influenced by these patterns, patterns shaped by the turning earth. As you drift deeper into this story, imagine the sky from above. Picture the earth as astronauts see it, a glowing blue sphere wrapped in swirls of white cloud. These swirls aren't random. They trace the invisible pathways created by the rotation of the planet. Air curling around pressure systems, storms twisting slowly as they grow, tiny puffs of cloud merging into vast weather formations. From space, the atmosphere looks like a painting in motion, soft strokes of white drifting over a canvas of blue and green. One of the most dramatic examples of this dance is the hurricane, massive swirling storms that are born in warm ocean waters. They begin as tiny clusters of thunderstorms, but as the earth rotates, these clusters start to turn, slowly at first, then more powerfully. The warm, rising air pulls the storm upward, and the rotation of the earth gives it a gentle spin that grows into a vast spiral, stretching hundreds of kilometers across the ocean. From above, the storm looks almost hypnotic, like a slow spinning galaxy floating above the ocean. But yet, despite the storm's power, its shape is guided by the same quiet motion that turns day into night. Further north and south, the winds behave differently. Jet streams, narrow rivers of fast-moving air, stretch across the upper atmosphere, flowing from west to east. These jets form because of temperature differences between the equator and the poles, but their direction is shaped by Earth's spin. They can move at incredible speeds, steering storms and weather systems around the world. You may never feel them directly, but they shape the weather patterns you see every day. The arrival of gentle rain, the passing of a cool front, or the sudden clearing of the sky at dusk. Even closer to the surface, Earth's rotation influences the smallest movements of air. When you feel a soft wind brushing through trees, that wind is part of a much larger motion, set in place millions of years ago when the Earth first began to spin. The breeze that drifts across a field at sunset, the air that carries the scent of oceans inland, the subtle winds that cool a quiet night, all of them are connected to the turning of the planet. If you listen closely, you can imagine the atmosphere like a breathing companion. As the Earth warms in sunlight, the air rises in slow, steady motions. As night falls, it cools and settles again. This daily cycle is a gentle inhaling and exhaling, shaped by the planet's rotation and the steady rhythm of time. In tropical regions, warm air rises every afternoon, forming towering clouds that glow orange and pink in the fading light. In colder regions, gentle winds drift across icy landscapes, moving in graceful arcs carved by the Earth's spin. Throughout history, humans have watched the sky to understand these patterns. Ancient sailors learned to follow the trade winds, letting Earth's rotation guide their journeys across open seas. Farmers noticed how seasonal winds brought rain or warmth to their fields. Travelers felt the difference in winds as they moved from valleys to mountains. Even without science, people sensed that the sky followed a rhythm deeper than weather alone, a pattern tied to the turning of the world. Today, we understand more about these motions than ever before, but their beauty remains the same. Earth's rotation choreographs the atmosphere like a gentle conductor. It nudges every gust of wind, shapes every cloud formation, and guides the currents of air that wrap the planet. Without this spin, the weather would be strange, unpredictable, and harsh. Winds would rush straight from hot regions to cold ones. Storms would behave wildly, and the calm cycles of day-to-night weather would lose their soothing rhythm. But because the Earth turns, the atmosphere turns with it, and that shared motion brings harmony to the world. It softens storms, organizes weather patterns, and spreads warmth and moisture in a balanced way. Even the quiet drizzle on a rainy morning, or the calm stillness before dawn, is influenced by the planet's ever-present rotation. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine yourself floating high above the world, watching clouds swirl in slow spirals across the oceans. Imagine the gentle push of global winds, moving like invisible rivers, guiding the weather from continent to continent. Picture the soft blending of warm and cool air, the slow turning of storms, the quiet drifting of breezes. All of it is moving, but nothing feels rushed. The Earth spins steadily beneath all of it, like a patient guardian keeping time. The next time you stand outside and feel a gentle breeze on your skin, you might remember this story. You might feel for just a moment the ancient motion that guides the air. You might sense the planet turning beneath your feet, holding you in its quiet rhythm. And perhaps in that moment, you'll feel connected not only to the weather, but to the slow, calming spin of Earth itself, a timeless motion that has carried life through billions of years and will continue to do so, softly and steadily, long after the night has lulled you into sleep.
Imagine, just for a moment, that the earth beneath you begins to turn a little faster. Not suddenly, not violently, but gently, almost like the planet is taking a deeper breath, exhaling with a bit more energy. Everything around you would still feel calm. The ground wouldn't shake, the air wouldn't rush past your ears, and the world wouldn't tilt or tremble. Instead, it would feel almost the same, silent, steady, but something subtle, something you can't quite see or touch, would begin to shift. As Earth spun slightly faster, the first thing to change wouldn't be anything dramatic. It would be the length of a single day. 24 hours, the rhythm we've always known, would quietly shorten, maybe by a minute, maybe by 2, maybe by more depending on how quickly the rotation increased. But the difference would be so small, so delicate, that at first no one would notice. Sunrises would still slide across the horizon, painting the morning sky with gold and pink. Evenings would still cool gently into night. But slowly, little by little, the world would begin to adapt to a new tempo, a new heartbeat. A faster spin would mean Earth completes one full rotation more quickly. The world would turn beneath our feet with a bit more enthusiasm, like a dancer increasing the speed of their motion without changing their grace. The cycle of day and night would feel very slightly more energetic, even if no sound, no tremor, no gust of wind betrayed the change.
Birds would still rise with the dawn, oceans would still sway with the pull of the moon, and clouds would still drift across the sky in their gentle patterns. But deep within the mechanics of the planet, the change would already be underway. If Earth spun faster, the force that keeps everything pressed gently to its surface, gravity, would still work as always. But it would have a companion, the outward tug of centrifugal force. And with a faster spin, that outward tug would grow just a little stronger. At the equator, where Earth spins the quickest, you would feel ever so slightly lighter. Not enough to make you float, not enough to make your feet leave the ground, but enough that if you jumped, you might feel an extra fraction of freedom in the air. Your body would never notice it. Your instincts wouldn't feel it. But scientifically, mathematically, the difference would be real. A tiny, gentle reduction in weight, like an invisible hand lifting a feather from your shoulder. The oceans would notice, though. Water responds to forces with patience, shifting slowly over time. The faster Earth spun, the more water would be drawn outward toward the equator. Sea levels around the equator might rise just a little, while the poles might experience the slightest retreat of the waterline. Not enough to flood cities, not enough to redraw maps, just enough to remind us that water is always listening to the planet's movements, always adjusting its flow to match the tempo of the world. Winds, too, would begin to move differently. The spinning of Earth already steers winds into curves rather than straight lines, a gentle effect called the Coriolis force. With a faster spin, those curves would deepen. Breezes would swirl a little more. Storms might have slightly more twist, more rotation, more dance in their motion. But not in the frightening, catastrophic way of disaster movies. More like nature expressing itself with a touch of extra flair, adding one more step to its ancient choreography. The atmosphere would continue its soft circulation, still ruled by warmth from the sun and coolness from the night, but now influenced by a more energetic rotating world. Clouds might travel a bit more swiftly across the sky. Jet streams, the fast ribbons of air high above us, might stretch and bend with new patterns. Rain might fall with slightly different timing. Wind might shift its paths, and weather systems might move across continents with a touch more eagerness. Yet the planet would not suddenly become turbulent or chaotic. Nature is adaptable. Life is adaptable. And Earth's rotation, even at a faster pace, would still be the calm turning of a giant sphere through the vast quiet of space. The ground would remain steady beneath your feet. Trees would stand just as tall. Waves would still roll in gentle rhythm across shorelines. Ecosystems would adjust gradually, almost lazily, to the small changes in daylight length and wind patterns. The world would continue to feel familiar, comforting, even as the subtleties of time and motion shifted slightly behind the scenes. Nighttime, too, would have a different texture in a faster spinning world. Darkness might arrive a few minutes earlier each day, wrapping the planet in coolness with a touch more haste. Stars would appear sooner, their quiet glow filling the sky. And as Earth turned more rapidly beneath the canvas of space, the stars might seem to glide a little faster across the heavens. The constellations would drift from east to west with a whisper more urgency, their motion nearly imperceivable but undeniably changed. Plants, the silent timekeepers of the natural world, would gently adjust their internal clocks. Sunflowers would still turn toward the light. Trees would still follow the cadence of the seasons. But their internal rhythms, the opening and closing of leaves, the slow dance of growth, would readjust to the subtly shorter days. Animals, too, would adapt, shifting their patterns of sleep, feeding, migration, and exploration. Life on Earth has always responded to the rhythm of the planet, and it would continue to do so with quiet resilience. If Earth spun significantly faster, not just minutes, but hours shorter, the changes would become more noticeable. Yet still, our imagined scenario remains calm, soothing, dreamlike. A 20-hour day, for example, would bring deeper changes. The world would move with a more vibrant energy. Winds would become stronger. Storms might grow slightly more intense. But even then, nature would settle into a new balance. Water would redistribute itself more noticeably, bulging more at the equator. The shape of Earth, which is already slightly flattened at the poles and widened at the equator, would exaggerate this form just a little more. But the change would be slow, the adjustment gradual, the process almost peaceful. Even the colors of the sky could shift in subtle ways. Sunrises might glow differently as the atmosphere responds to new movements. Shadows might stretch and fade with a slightly altered rhythm. The world would remain beautiful, still painted with the soft blues, warm golds, and gentle purples we know. Just a little different, just a new variation of the same familiar theme. And through all this, as Earth turned more quickly, the planet would maintain its perfect balance in space. Its orbit around the sun would remain unchanged. Its tilt, the gentle angle that creates seasons, would still guide the waxing and waning of warmth and light. Only the rotation would shift, adjusting with a grace that reminds us how dynamic, how alive the world truly is. Imagine lying down at night, the faster spinning Earth carrying you quietly through space. The ground humming with the soft vibration of a globe turning beneath billions of stars. The air whispering with currents shaped by rotation. The sky moving overhead with a serene, celestial glide. You would still feel calm, still feel grounded, still feel connected to the world that holds you. Earth would remain your cradle, your home, your steady companion, spinning a little quicker perhaps, but still gentle, still safe. And in this imagined world of faster rotation, there would also be a sense of wonder, a reminder that even the smallest change in the universe can ripple quietly through everything, altering the patterns of wind, water, light, and life, yet still leaving room for peace, for beauty, for the timeless comfort of existence. Earth's spin is part of its story, part of your story, part of the great cosmic narrative unfolding through billions of years. And even if it turned faster, even if the rhythm shifted, the planet would remain a serene traveler through the darkness, spinning gently, endlessly, beneath the wide and dreaming sky.
Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a quiet shore, not during the day, when the world is loud, but in the deep blue calm of night, when the sky feels endless and the horizon softens into a single gentle line. The waves move in and out, as if the ocean itself is breathing, and the sand beneath your feet subtly shifts with every rise and fall. Those waves, that rhythm, that steady, ancient pull, they are part of Earth's long, quiet rotation story, a story guided by two celestial companions, the moon and the sun. This chapter, gentle and unhurried, is the tale of the tides and how they help shape the spin of the Earth in ways we seldom notice, yet always feel. Take a breath. Let the sound of the imaginary waves grow softer in your mind. Let the rhythm of your heartbeat match the slow movement of the ocean. Now, sink into the story. Long ago, when the Earth was young and its days were short, only about 6 hours long, the moon orbited much closer than it does today. So close that it appeared enormous in the sky, casting shimmering reflections across oceans that were still forming. The gravitational pull between Earth and its moon was intense, like two dancers locked in an endless embrace, guiding one another through motions both subtle and grand.
Back then, the tides were not the gentle rises and falls we see today. They were massive, towering waves that swept across the entire planet. The Earth spun quickly, trying to pull its oceans along with it, but the moon's gravity tugged back, slowing the rotation little by little. It didn't happen in a single night, or a single lifetime, or 100 million lifetimes. It happened so slowly that if you stood on the shore through the whole process, you wouldn't notice anything at all. But over billions of years, the effect was profound. The tides acted like a soft hand pressing against a spinning wheel, applying the tiniest bit of pressure over unimaginable stretches of time. And because of that subtle resistance, Earth's spin gradually relaxed. The days grew longer. 6 hours became 8. 8 became 12. 12 stretched into 24. The very day you live inside right now, the length of sunlight, the rhythm of your sleeping and waking, the flow of time itself, exists because of those tides. Imagine the Earth as a giant turning sphere wrapped in oceans that constantly slosh from side to side, pulled by the moon's steady hand. When the oceans bulge toward the moon, Earth's spin tries to drag that bulge ahead, but the moon's gravity gently pulls it back. That tiny tugging slows the rotation, the way a soft brush against your fingertips can slow a spinning coin on a table. Every wave that rises, every tide that falls, is part of this quiet, cosmic balancing act. The sun also plays its part. Its gravity creates its own tides, smaller than the moon's, but still part of the dance. When the sun, the moon, and the Earth line up, their pulls combine and the tides grow stronger, reaching farther up the shore. When they oppose each other, the tides soften, as if the ocean is resting. And still the Earth spins, quietly, steadily, gently. Its rhythm shaped by these celestial forces. Now, imagine the ocean from another angle, not from the shore, but from far above the Earth. Imagine looking down through space, where the oceans swirl like living blue ink. You would see two great bulges of water, one facing the moon and one on the opposite side. They slowly move around the planet as it rotates, creating the familiar rise and fall we call the tides. But you know what's even more fascinating? These bulges never align perfectly with the moon. They are always slightly ahead, dragged forward by Earth's spin. And this tiny offset is what sends energy outward, pushing the moon away from Earth bit by bit. Even now, as you sit here listening, the moon is drifting, slowly, silently, about 4 centimeters farther from us every year. You wouldn't feel it, and you couldn't see it, but it is happening the same way you can't feel the Earth rotate even though you are spinning with it constantly. And so the dance continues. The tides slow Earth down. The Earth pushes the moon away. The moon continues to guide the tides, and the cycle repeats. A slow, celestial waltz. This dance has shaped the history of life on Earth too. Long before humans existed, before cities, trees, or even fish, life began at the edge of the ocean. Organisms gently followed the rhythm of the tides, learning to time their movements with the rise and fall of the moonlit waves. Even today, many creatures still follow tidal clocks that have existed longer than any mountain or river. On summer nights, tiny glowing plankton drift with the tides, pulsing with light as the water carries them. Sea turtles return to shore guided by the moon's pull. Birds migrate by reading the rhythm of the waves from the air. Even the solid ground beneath your feet flexes ever so slightly with each tidal shift, though you will never feel it. Everything, land, water, life, responds to this ancient pull. As the Earth keeps rotating, The tides continue their soft, unending work. A tiny slowing here, a quiet stretch of the day there. Nothing urgent, nothing forceful, only a gentle shaping of time. Picture it. The night sky, a calm ocean, the moon rising slowly, silver light glistening across the water. The earth beneath you rotating silently, influenced by that distant companion. It is a reminder that the universe moves at its own pace, slow, patient, eternal. And you are not separate from this motion. You are part of the same dance. The atoms in your body were once part of oceans, mountains, moons, and stars that moved to these cosmic rhythms long before you breathed your first breath. As you imagine the tides brushing the shoreline, you might feel your own inner tide begin to settle, a soft wave of calm rising and falling in your chest. The world outside slows, and the space inside you grows quiet. Let yourself drift with the ancient motion, with the water, with the moon, with the earth, with the gentle, endless spin that carries us all through time. And as the tides whisper their timeless story, the night around you deepens. The earth turns, the moon watches, the ocean breathes, and you, slowly, peacefully, breathe with it.